People would always use, oh, they're trying to tap into Nike culture. And I used to say, you either get Nike culture or you don't. It's not something that you can put on a piece of paper.
So this is showing how the Nike Air Max tubes are made.
Correct. No one in the early days wanted to go to Asia. I started to be the guy that would carry duffel bags of airbags over, and we'd set up and get wear tests done, build shoes. Zoom Air starts showing up in a few areas.
This is Phil Knight with the runners. Amazing. In previous episodes, we followed Stu Forstrom from his early years in Connecticut through Nike Exeter, where he helped build the machine shops, tooling systems, and manufacturing capabilities that supported Nike's growing ambition. By 1986, that chapter was coming to an end. What began as a career rooted in machine and prototype development was about to move to the center of Nike's innovation engine. This is the Beaverton chapter. Over the next 20 years, Stu helped build the infrastructure behind some of Nike's most important manufacturing breakthroughs. He would establish foundational operations within IHM, contribute to the evolution of air technology, and help define how Tensile Air, later known as Zoom Air, was manufactured, and play a key role in Nike's transition away from SF6 gas. Along the way, he moved the machine shop leadership into engineering management, earned multiple patents, and became one of the most responsible people for turning ambitious ideas into repeatable, scalable manufacturing systems. By the end of this chapter, the work would extend far beyond Beaverton. The lessons learned here would ultimately lay the foundation for Nike's expansion of air manufacturing across Asia. This is the story of how a machinist from New England became one of the key figures behind the technology, systems, and people that powered Nike Air for decades. So this is probably the part of your evolution and growth and your career trajectory that I'm most excited about. And this is the move to Beaverton. So what a lot of people don't know is what were in our previous Partners and Plugs about the establishment of Exeter. And this is about the diaspora to the mothership, if you will. So you arrive in Beaverton in 1986 after spending 5 years building out Nike Exeter. What was it like finally arriving at headquarters? And did it feel like a promotion or an opportunity, or did it feel like starting over?
I would say kind of a cross between a promotion and just continuing to ride the wave. You know, when I left Nike, it was fun, and there was multiple reasons why I left, and I won't get into that. But coming back to the mothership was fun again because the people I was working with, people I met in Exeter, now we're all working together in different groups out in Beaverton. And again, I was blessed that somebody saw my name and said, "Hey, this is a guy that could help out," you know, and. So I got brought back, not so much in a tooling role, but in a manufacturing role. We had the first air sole building was what they called B16. Like we just called it Building 16 because I think that's how they labeled it in the industrial park.
Right, and Michael Jordan wasn't Michael Jordan yet.
You know, and yeah, the campus wasn't built yet and all that, and. It was a unique building because at that time all we did was what this technology was called flat film, and we just weld two pieces together and inflate it and then put it into a midsole, and you couldn't see it, and then so that led to a couple years later the whole Air Max revolution, the visible air shoe and things like that, but we had to.
So the Air Max revolution. Did that come from the corporate office, or now you're on campus and they're imagining this? Like, what was it like when they pitched this to you?
And we're not on campus. We're off campus, actually next to this place that used to make peanuts called Hoodie's Peanuts, which was,
You were next to a peanut manufacturer.
it was great because the smell of peanuts going through the factory all day long, it was great. It was just phenomenal.
Oh my God.
And camp
Was
camp,
there a beer place to get beer?
Well, we had a little kiosk. Back then there was no real rules unless you did something really stupid. You know, there was alcohol was allowed and things like that. You know, on Fridays and stuff like that. And I mean, we had beer relays. We had. I mean, there was. So
the Air Max. Are you saying the Air Max could have been inspired by a beer relay?
Well, the Air Max was inspired by a couple of guys on campus. I think Tinker had his hand in it. I think Mark Parker had his hand in it.
So these are iconic names now: Tinker, Hatfield, and Parker.
And it was how do we make air visible? You know, so that was the first time. Now we're taking TPU, thermoplastic polyurethane. Not in sheets and welding a pattern in it, but now we're getting it in tubes. Okay. And the tubes had different diameters for different widths of the airbag. And you could kind of see in this photo, that's kind of what a VA bag, what we call a VA bag, visual air.
Okay, so these were taken at your engineering lab.
These are actually taken in a factory. Doing testing. We're doing mold trials and mold fit trials.
Okay.
And there was a lot of challenge in this tube for the Air Max because at first it came in long boxes and we had to kind of, old school, like inflate it. And then, because it would stick together, and so when we actually made the airbag, we couldn't have them stick together.
What do you think when they said we need to make a visible?
I thought it was cool, and for 2 or 3 of us, we just thought it was a great engineering challenge. How do we get this tube? How do we get it inflated and welded and then cut out? And somebody else had to make it into the shoe, but we had our challenges of making.
And that was like around what year?
I gotta say that 1990.
Yeah, because I remember the first time I saw those. Literally, you couldn't escape a Sports Illustrated without seeing a back cover of an Air Max, and everyone was like, "What is that?" It was so revolutionary. So as Stu's looking for, more things to show us, creating the technology for the Air Max. So when you move the machine shop all the way over to Beaverton, like, what did that feel like coming back in and having to? Did you reestablish a full machine shop, or you came into one and then had the position to be able to say, hey, we need this, and this, or I need to move things the way I want it? Like, what was that like?
So it was interesting that the machine shop ended up being kind of sold. Like, Nike got rid of the machine shop.
In Exeter?
No, in Oregon. We moved it all out, and then they ended up getting rid of it. They went back old school, only to come back full circle and do it all again.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that was interesting. So.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So
wait, you grabbed some stuff when we were talking about the
Yeah. So the first visual air, I was going to look at my cheat sheet. So Vizier, 1987. Okay. Nike was buying all our polyurethane for the airbags, for all Nike Air, from a company called Tetra Plastics in Missouri. And
wait, all of it?
All of it. And all the raw material, all the sheet film, all the tubes, all that came from Tetra Plastics.
So Tetra Plastics went from a small company to massive?
To a company that Nike bought in 1990.
Okay.
So,
is that what was typical of, like, if they partner with someone, they would just roll them in if they were?
I think back then Nike was concerned if somebody just decided to go somewhere else, they could hold Nike hostage.
Right.
So that's my personal opinion. I don't know if it was a good venture or a bad venture. I'll keep my own personal thoughts on that one. But they were the supplier, and they were innovative. So working with them directly, we cut out, we had the secrecy, which was a big thing back then. Secrecy was the word, about everything. And so doing the tubes, that again, it created a challenge, and I found this document, which was like one of the first quality control documents for buying and testing, Nike tubes for making.
So wait, so this is showing how the Nike Air Max tubes are made?
Correct.
And did you draw these out?
No, this was somebody did this in St. Louis.
Oh wow.
So I wouldn't be surprised.
Wait, go back.
Sorry.
There's the actual how it's folded. So the next page.
Yeah. So again, because the tube is extruded through water, it sticks together. Mm-hmm. So if you tried to inflate it with 25 psi, sometimes it wouldn't kind of bulge out. So we had to pre-inflate them and do all that. And every tube, like I said, had a different circumference or diameter, I should say. And that's how we called it, like 1 black, 3 black.
It's amazing to see this because, as a consumer, I don't know if you can see that. Think about every size of every shoe when they start to put in this new technology and what the engineers have to consider just to get one component of the technology of a shoe to be able to go to market. I mean, you walk into a sneaker store, you look for the color you want, or you know the brand and what's hip, but you don't think about all the little things that go into it, and you're doing that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I don't think people really understand the magnitude of that, because you look at, there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 15 different diameters. So you take this overseas, now that's a whole set of different midsoles, because it's how wide the shoe goes out. Mm-hmm. So people just think, oh, it's maybe one airbag size and one size fits all. No, absolutely not.
Right.
And sometimes on the spectrum, the smaller sizes and the larger sizes where the pain in the ass is to fit, because you want to try to maintain that look, and then you're trying to squeeze a little bag in and keeping that look from if you're a designer developer, because he or she, has their opinion on how the shoe needs to look, and they have like pretty much the final say. And then you got the big sizes, which are now going way past where you so those are always challenges to the factory and us for making the tooling and stuff, because we're limited on the amount of power and force that we can make and weld an airbag and inflate it and stuff like that. So
you come back to a new shop, then they get rid of everything.
Yeah, so now I'm not in a machine shop anymore. I'm now in an engineering manufacturing role. There's two of us.
Okay.
A gentleman named Les Cooper, who was one of the original biomechanic guys with Ned Fredericks and Tom Clark, and myself, and we are basically Nike Air manufacturing, two of us. Wow. So that's plumbing, electrical, machining, tooling, innovation. I mean, there's other people jumping in, but that was basically the team in Beaverton, Oregon for the early Nike.
So what's the process? So after the Air Max established itself, and they understand that the market has embraced it, are you just drinking from a fire hose because new products are coming out, or once the technology is done on the sizes, it's just they're rolling through it and you're waiting for the next project?
I think because they had such success with the Air Max, then it goes like, what else can we put it in? So can we put it in basketball? Can we put it in other type? So that percolates other things going on.
I don't even remember. Was it in basketball?
Yeah.
But could you see it or you couldn't?
Yeah, you could see it. So the Air Max 180 was the first time they put like an outsole next to the Air Max bag. So there was an Air 180 running and an Air 180 basketball shoe.
I wonder how that did. I don't even remember that.
And the running shoe, again, they put the airbag really close. They had it was like a TPU outsole, if I remember correctly. And that created all sorts of manufacturing challenges. It wasn't encapsulated in the foam. It was literally stock fitted, so, yeah. So then Visi Air now, we're still doing quite a bit of what we call flat film. and I dug up an old document just to give you the volumes of what we were making in flat film back then, which was a lot. I mean,
So what about the scale? Like, since you started from the beginning and now Air Max comes out, do you have any idea outside of your area of focus? Like, are they making 1 million units a quarter? Like, do you have any idea about the production and how the reach is growing?
We're making well over 1 million. This gives you an idea, a seasonal. So on this one airbag alone, 12 million or whatever.
Okay, wait a minute. So this is the production of the airbags.
Yeah.
And this is what year?
I think 01 maybe.
So I don't know if you can see that, but that's just the production of the airbags going into the sneakers. So the first one's 19 million.
Yeah, I don't have my glasses on. What was the first one?
Yeah, first one's 19,433,000.
Which they still make today. It's done in China.
187, which is 41.6% of the category. So that's 46,756,381 airbags. So if you think there's a lot of shoes being made today, this is in 01.
01. And so you can see the next page talks about how much blow molding was done. This is way before thermoform. This is still SF6 now. We're not changed to gas yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I thought my sneaker collection was pretty big, but I guess I'm not even scraping the surface. All right, so let's think about Beaverton versus Exeter. You leave, you get there. What's the energy like on the new campus in your space? And what's the transition like for you? And did you feel like they would scale quickly? Like your expectations of what you were going to do were achieved? Because it's a big move, right? You move from New Hampshire out to Oregon, where everything's centered out of. Phil Knight's there. It's growing like crazy. It must have been a big culture shock in a few ways.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Oregon was definitely different than New England. I mean, people in New England, I don't know, sometimes we move a little faster. We don't stop for stop signs type of things. And, Oregon was a little bit more, maybe from my position, laid back, but we're in a part of Nike where things are just going nuts. Like everything that's coming at us full bore. And can we get it done? So, we're trying to expedite equipment. There's only a certain amount of companies in the United States making what we call radio frequency welding. They seem to be all in Long Island for some reason. And so, we started with, little teeny welders. Now we're buying big welders, like we used to call them 1 kWs. Now we're buying 30 kWs.
Did you have a budget for the machinery? It was like, if you need it, go get it.
It was more if you needed it, go get it. If there was a forecast and they're launching, we had to get the equipment. And again, back then there was a handful of vice presidents and you kind of knew them all. And that also made things interesting. And so if you were making the right decisions, people kind of rolled with it.
Right.
So, every now and then you made a wrong decision, but, I was fortunate in my career not to make too many wrong decisions. But we did things. We did things quick, and we did things, how do you do it? And I think today it's not as easy. I think there's more steps that people have to go through to, procure equipment and justify than what we went through in the 90s.
Okay.
I mean, in the 90s, it was literally, if you were my boss, I would come in, this is what a machine's going to cost. We need 6 of them. How do we do this? And it was kind of settled like that.
So you mentioned that you became engineering manager within IHM at Beaverton.
Correct.
Was there a point where your job shifted from solving technical problems to leading teams and developing staff, building the team rather than just being, focused on solving technical problems?
Yeah, you started building a team based on what you needed. If you needed, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and things like that, tooling guys, and you just did that. But everybody was hands-on. Like there was no, you know, I would help you do wiring, and you might be drilling and tapping a part if you were an electrical engineer. I mean, it was, again, it was just an unwritten kind of rule in the early days. You know, you chipped in where you where you needed to be, and to get things done. And that made things exciting to me. You know.
I mean, a lot of people. I mean, that's an entrepreneurial environment.
Yeah, I mean, you just found people to help you to get things done, be it with internal or external. Like if you had an idea, you know, and then you start working with, like, say you might work with an outside, you know, engineering company, and like, how do we do this? You know, here's the idea, you know, but you got a bigger staff to do the drawings and all that, and you know, let's, you know, make the prototype machine and do all that, and that's, again, that was the fun part, you know, just going with ideas and creating things. And you know, and I would say in the late 80s, early 90s, I was, you know, there was 2 or 3 of us that were, you know, put in charge of some pretty big programs to make sure that we can make the product that Nike is selling. You know, so
because they came up with the idea and what they needed, and you had to bring it to
we had to implement. Okay, how do we inflate, you know, 500,000 pairs, you know, of airbags, you know, in a season, and what type of equipment?
Right, because then it's the question of the manufacturing and having the right machines to do it,
and then
the QC of that.
Yeah, so you have everything. You have incoming raw quality control. You have the ongoing quality assurance of the product. Then you have staffing, like the manufacturing staffing out on the floor. You know, you have the engineering support, and then, you know, then you have all the logistics of, you know, the freight and all that stuff. And then you got the communication with Asia. Is it working? You know, and how's the quality?
Right, so let's talk about that. At what point did you shift your job shift from solving technical problems yourself to leading teams and developing people? So you became the first engineering manager with IHM Beaverton, and then you became responsible for air operations in Asia.
Yeah.
Which, you mentioned it last time we were here, but what did that path look like from, what was it, 86 till when you took over and were going back and forth to Asia?
Yeah, it probably started with the SF6 reduction plan. We had to get out of this global warming gas, and it was a large molecule.
And that was in what year?
I would say that started in the early 90s, 92 or so. And
that was mandated by the government? You couldn't use this gas?
Nike was doing it because some of the European countries were against global warming gases, and they were, you know, it was a political issue. And so from the top, Nike decided, you know, to be a good global citizen. And so the charter was put out, you know, let's switch over from what was called, you know, a monolayer TPU with a large molecule gas to a multi-layer TPU with nitrogen. So my role in that was, you know, no one in the early days wanted to go to Asia. And so I started to be the guy that would carry duffel bags of airbags over, and we'd set up and get wear tests done, build shoes.
So you didn't own these facilities, you were partnering with facilities. Yep. And where in Asia were you?
Most of that was done in China and Vietnam.
So that early on, is it like you're, you know, headed out to the Wild West and just, you already have...
Yeah, Vietnam definitely, early days.
So are you faxing to find out, how do you find out who to work with?
You kind of knew through the categories, okay, this factory group, you know, is making that model. So you're bringing airbags over,
and you're calling them. You're not like video conferencing.
No, that was way before video conferencing.
So the communications are letters?
Some were done by simple faxes. You know,
if you don't know what a fax is, you can look it up. We can't talk about what that is.
Things like that, and you know, some were done by mail. You know, and and you know, that was way before video calls and stuff like that. So
then you go over.
I would literally carry duffel bags full of airbags in the early days of SF6. And every time...
Were they Nike duffel bags or Army duffel bags?
No, they were Nike duffel bags. And,
do you still have any? I'd love to get
one. Probably.
All right, we'll look later.
So, and they were like hockey. They were like Nike hockey bags. And I would always like be concerned going, you know, one of these days I'm going to get stopped. I finally got stopped in Vietnam. And... because like you bring a product in that you paid nothing on.
Sure, of course.
And then we're taking X amount of shoes home with us, you know, and so that was always the challenge. And like I said, in Vietnam, once I got stopped, I think I had 3 duffel bags, and I got pulled in the back room, and you kind of knew the rules, you know, about pleading ignorance and stuff. And the guy's asking me for money, you know, he's asking me, you know, he wanted X amount per pair. And
oh, no way. He was totally trying to extort you.
Oh, totally. So I take out my wallet and I hand him a credit card. And I still remember this. No credit card. No credit card. So he just said, and he wrote something on my Visa. I think it's in one of my old passports, and I go, yeah, I'm blacklisted now. So you know, and then he let me go. And but yeah, we did this for 5-6 years, into China, into Vietnam, sometimes Taiwan, sometimes Korea.
Oh wow, that's
so by doing that. So fast forward, you're starting to know factory GMs. You're starting to know factory presidents, factory owners. Again. The Nike world, if you were a pretty decent guy, you know, and they kind of liked you, you know, they would help you. I found out some things later on, like in the early days, that, you know, one of the GMs told me, who later became one of the presidents of one of the big factories, said, "Yeah, we just tried to make it hard on you, Stu. You know, like
they were
I told my PU guys, make it hard on them. You know, I told my assembly guys, make it hard on them, you know, and because if you could envision this, you've got a machine that's working. So Nike running, Nike basketball, they're making product, blah, blah, blah. Now,
so when you go into one of these factories, just to get an idea of the scope, could you go into a 100,000 square foot factory that's making all Nike shoes all day long for months on end?
Most of the factories, other than the YY factories in Guangzhou, were predominantly Nike factories.
Nike factories, and they're running 24/7.
Yep. The Guangzhou factory in
they're running all, like, it's all Nike, just in out, shipped, gone.
Yeah. That factory group might own another factory that's doing stuff for Adidas and stuff, but like the YY factory in Guangzhou, it's like a little city. I mean, when you see lunch go, like you'll see a building flush out, you don't want to be the guy crossing that courtyard, going the wrong way. So there'd be like one factory, one whole big section of Nike, Adidas, could be Puma, you know, and these are like cities, you know, like, you know, just footwear people. But in the ones in Vietnam and stuff, they were predominantly Nike factories, and you knew the drill. Mm-hmm. You know, you knew everything. We got pretty good on our testing, you know, our testing protocols. The factory understood our testing protocols, you know, and getting in and doing that. So again, it wasn't something I was doing to help my career. It just ended up helping my career.
That's the way it
you know, so
the trajectory. So you lived through several major evolutions of air manufacturing, from the platform and visible air to thermal forming,
blow molding in between. So
blow molding in between.
It went flat film, Visier, blow molding, then kind of tuned air and blow molding. Zoom air was also taking place.
So these, you pulled some shoes from the basement, which while we're doing this, I have my friends going in and taking all the shoes that I want. But let's kind of talk about some of these shoes and the different technologies that are ingrained in them, because it kind of will tell a story about the evolution, and we have some over there, because I know they're all different as far as the technology.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it a little bit date-wise. So these, to my best of my knowledge, are called Air Max 96. These, I think, are original based on what the airbag looks like in the seam. So it's a low pressure or a 20 PSI 4-foot bag and a dual pressure heel bag.
Okay, so this is around what year?
1996.
1996. So this is utilizing a specific technology at that time.
Yeah, that would have been blow molded monolayer with SF6 gas.
Okay. And then, is it based on the performance of the shoe as far as the sell-through, and then you start changing the technology, or is it what the people in Beaverton are thinking about? What can we do next? Like, how are decisions made about how the technology changes from this, and which shoe was kind of the next evolution of this technology?
Yeah, I'm going to step back one because this one probably led to that one. This is
Okay.
You might have saw this on an earlier.
I think
this is
Air
the
Max Day.
This is the Air Max. This is the Air Max 95.
And this is around what year?
1995. And then that one led to the Air Max 96 because I think the 95 did so well.
Okay, and these aren't a sample. You used to wear these in the garden?
No, these aren't. I kept those because these are original Air Max 95s that I think we might have talked about on one of the other episodes where
this is an original Air Max 95.
It was engraved 25.5 and you'll never see that again.
Yeah, so this is a piece of history. I mean, this is 31 years old.
Well,
amazing.
And I don't think not too many people know that whole issue about the engraving on the
right.
molds.
We talked about it, I think, in episode 1 or 2. Okay, so you go from one technology to the other.
So now we're into blow molding, and blow molding's taking off. But again, so St. Louis is doing the majority of the blow molding. They're buying a lot of German machines, you know. So we have coming at Nike Air, we got flat film, big volume. We got Visier, big volume. We got blow molding. It's starting to become big volume.
What's big volume to you in those days?
Oh, hundreds of thousands of pairs
a year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then we got Zoom Air or Tensile Air, which is again we're playing with this as things are going along. And these are things that are just hitting real time, let alone a lot of innovation things that are always. Were
you stressed out?
I don't think I ever got stressed out. You know. In those days, I don't think I got stressed till later on in my career, but in the early days, you had a job to do, you just did it, you know.
So from this, then you pulled some here. So
then we get into like maybe mid 90, 96, 97. This is a Zoom racer.
So these are a lot lighter.
Yeah, this is an Air Teleria. You know, Zoom Air starts showing up in a few areas. That one.
So this is Air Teleria?
Yeah. So
and
Zoom Air.
What were they trying to?
Just a fast running shoe.
Okay. Because this is super light.
Because if unless you're a big chubby guy like me, running in those shoes is big ear, big guy. The runner types that they're trying to get weight out of shoes and stuff like that. So So that became Teleria was around 97 or so.
Yeah, I mean, even like the evolution in the tongue, how, I don't know if you can see this, how they take, they perforate it, and then the soles are totally different. But this is a very lightweight running shoe.
I mean, for its day, it was.
Oh yeah. I mean, now some of your competitors are doing sneakers that are insane.
Yeah. So then you had this other one, which I found, which again, this was from our side an engineering challenge because this was the Air Alpha Zoom, and this is the first time we put Zoom Air like literally right under the outsole. So there's like an airbag, a tensile airbag, like right under these pods.
Were these well received? Here, let's see the bottom.
I don't know how long that one lasted. To me, Zoom Air felt good underfoot when it was positioned under your foot because, again, I don't know what people know about Zoom Air. It's fabric capsulated between film. And when you step on it, I used to call it trees in the forest, the trees collapse a little and then spring back.
Yep.
Where like flat film you have to put dot patterns in to maintain a Z height.
Okay.
Well, in a Zoom bag, So when you have a dot, I'm going to back up. When you have a dot pattern in a flat film bag, that fills up with PU or stock fit Phylon. But when you got a zoom bag, you're right on the zoom bag.
Right.
You're not on foam with the air. You're on the, so you always had this, I used to use the word drumhead effect, this kind of kickback.
Because now that seems to be popular, like,
with the competition today?
Yeah, I mean, like, I know, Adidas, the Evo, whatever shoe, like it feels like you're walking on a waterbed.
Yeah, the energy return is where, and that's probably a whole nother story for 2018 and beyond up to now, how, things got missed a little, I think, So Zoom's starting to do pretty good. Again, big challenge to make it, not easy at all. We're hooking up with a mill down in the Carolinas, but it actually, Zoom Air, and a lot of people don't know this, had its roots in New England, had its roots in Massachusetts. We were doing, we're making a couple hundred yards from a factory called Malden Mills.
Oh yeah, sure.
So
that made Polar Tech.
Yep. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman.
Which burned down.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman named.
Yes, I had a career outside of this years ago.
There was a gentleman there named Fred Arden, who always seemed to, saw the vision that this could go somewheres, and so imagine 5 or 6 Nike guys going into a big mill like that to make 100 yards of fabric. Yeah, we called it space of fabric. I mean,
yards.
we are a royal pain in the ass.
Yeah.
We were the biggest pain in the ass going, and the first Tencel Air or Zoom Air was actually a polyester fabric.
Yeah, because Malden Mills was famous for making the fleece that you'd have. The one that probably most people, the brand they'll know is Patagonia, but then it was used by everyone else from LLB. And that fleece material came out of Malden Mills.
Yeah. And so, you fast forward, and then somebody, I don't know when this took place, but it got a few people upset. I was one of them, that they shifted to a nylon material and never really talked to Malden. Like, do you even want to do this? They kind of just left Malden hanging, which I thought was kind of not the right thing, because these guys were with us for quite a few years, and then they just moved on to
they could be value engineering the product, or
I don't think they even got a chance saying you got to buy this other new machine, which was called made in Germany. It was kind of a double needle Rochelle machine, and they went down south and somebody prototyped some stuff, and then as we found out later, we found out people in Korea was doing this and stuff like that. But the fact that no one really ever, hey, Malden, are you sticking with us? You're going to need to buy a machine like this. I don't think that conversation ever took place.
Yeah.
So Zoom Air, led into some things, which led into that on the outsole. And if we're just sticking with Zoom Air right now, I dug these out. Then we went to what we called Visi Zoom Air. You were able to see the trees in the forest. Like like the Air Max, you saw the window. Now you can see the technology of Zoom Air.
And are any of the shoes here a good representation of
that? I have no.
Are there any shoes that you remember back in the day? You were like, this is exactly how I imagined it.
I never really liked that shoe that much because I didn't think it looked that good.
Okay.
What
did the consumer think?
That's a good question. I don't know.
You don't know.
It didn't last long, so I think it's hard to cut a fabric and make it look clean. So if you're looking at the fabric through the window, unless you're a real shoe geek, it just never looked clean to me. And that's, again, my own personal opinion.
Okay, so you're developing new technologies at a rapid pace. You're manufacturing a ton of shoes. You mentioned the transition from FS6 to nitrogen is one of the most important projects you worked on. Yet most consumers really never heard about it. What was FS6, and why did Nike need to move away from it, and why was the transition so difficult? Was it the gas inside of it, or was there something else?
So it's a label that, and it still is a global warming gas. You know, it's a
And no one uses that anymore.
no. Well, no one used it in shoes. We were the first. So the patents, the early patents of Nike Air was a large molecule gas, you know, and so on. And so now, again, like I was saying earlier, we got to get out of this gas. So now we got to re-engineer the whole film side of things, the tooling side of things, and that's where. So now we own Tetra. It's called IHM, in-house manufacturing. So there's no longer B16 or Air Manufacturing. It's now called IHM, and we own Tetra now. And Tetra's doing, since they're up in Missouri are a big extruding company. You know, we start doing, or they start doing, I'm not that involved in it other than getting product made, is doing multiple layers within a thickness of film. So there's barrier layers of material. And so again, going back to the layman, unless you're a real shoe geek and really go down the rabbit hole, people don't understand that you could have a millimeter of monolayer film, an SF6, or a millimeter of multi-layer or micro-layer film, you know, that has all sorts of films within that, so the nitrogen can't pass through it fast. You know, there's a term in the Nike Air called gas transfusion rate, GTR, and that's how fast a gas molecule can travel through something. You know,
Gotcha.
And
so you had mentioned, I think, God, in the wintertime that you faced resistance from groups like Nike Running, Nike Basketball, because the transition required new tooling, new budgets, significant operational change. How do you move a project forward when many of the people affected don't want it to happen?
Well, again, you're in a big company, and even though people don't want it to happen, they have to have it happen, but they're pissed. I mean,
so
you know,
give me an example of like a mandate comes down, you know, people at Nike Basketball, or they're just like,
oh, they're totally
what WTF?
Because if you have a series of molds, like a full size run of molds made, outsoles, midsole molds, all that type of tooling, and you already paid for it through X amount of sell through of your product. Now you're still making that same model, but you got to start investing in a whole new set of molds. And it's not like the SF6 program, to my knowledge, was subsidizing, you know, this new tooling. But now you're the running guy, and I got your molds are now obsolete, and you got to make all new tooling on a product.
Are they freaking out, or they're like relying on you?
They're not freaking out, but they want to make sure that the transition is that first off, the performance of a SF6 bag in that product is the exact same performance as a multi-layer bag with nitrogen. So,
and who judges that? Are you using computers then?
Nike has a very intense biomechanical lab.
Okay, so these shoes are going in, like they're putting the shoe in with a biomechanical lab and they're measuring it.
Yes, and you'll have X amount of wear testers. Some are running in the old shoe and some are running in the new shoe. And so you got, and wear testing again takes a long time. I mean, for somebody to put mileage on a shoe, and you know, if you're a decent runner, you want that comfort, you want that stability, because you don't want, you don't want to twist an ankle or something like that. So between the hard mechanical tests, you had wear testing. And so all that, so they did all that already on the old bag, and now they're going to do it compared to the new bag. So if there was any blips on the radar that people didn't like or it felt hard, then people got upset, you know, and so those were some of the challenges. And again, you're trying to build a product, and sometimes we couldn't keep runners, or you know, what we're doing in the SF6, basketball players or runners in certain shoes because of the uppers, you know. So we would have to find an upper, put an upper on a different midsole, because a runner or a hoop guy liked the upper. So he's not going to wear a shoe if the upper is uncomfortable.
So basketball at that time, this is Jordan's already an established name.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of established stuff, but again, you don't want to be again, people aren't going to put something on that could maybe injure them. You know?
Right.
So that's where the testing.
You don't even think about it as a consumer, how much time it takes to make sure that there's not a liability issue with a mass-produced shoe, like a running shoe or basketball shoe, that then 2 months later people are rolling ankles, or it starts to wear wrong and they don't slide, and I mean, there's a million things that can go wrong in a shoe.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. And at an elite level, and even not at the elite level, I mean, you want to make sure that the product you're putting on is not going to hurt you.
Right.
You know?
And it's got to perform exactly the way you want it.
Exactly, that you thought the old one did. And that was a challenge. And again, the Nike Bio Research Lab I've seen it grow. I mean, it used to be you could kind of walk in because you knew people. That is one of the most highly guarded. Well, now Nike campus is that way. I mean, you're not even allowed in certain buildings, you know. And used to be you had a badge, you could go anywhere. And used to be you didn't have the badge, people knew you could go anywhere.
When we're done with this, I'm going to go into that room you said was the stuff you stole. So you can. I brought money this time. So let me just jump ahead a little bit, because one of the things that I was thinking about on the way here, and then made some notes on the notes, is you did a limited run of roughly 70 leather jackets that were produced for the team that completed the FS6 project.
Correct.
What did that team go through that made the accomplishment worthy of that kind of recognition?
I just thought back then there was, I would say, out of that 70, I was dealing with 20 of them, and I know what we were doing. I know where my family suffered because I was gone for weeks on end every couple months in Asia. And one of the guys, a guy named Larry Eisenbach, said, Korea was a great place to build leather jackets. He goes, let's get some leather jackets made for the team.
Yeah.
And he went out and did it.
Do you still have connections there? Because we're thinking about going from a soccer jersey to a leather jacket.
It's a good leather jacket. I mean, for the weather out here,
dude, does it still fit?
Yeah.
Let's see it on.
This is
So you had this made for the team?
No. This guy Larry Eisenbach had them made.
Okay.
And so we, the guys that were in the core did it. It's got a good Nike swoosh. That's the SF6. That was our logo. That's the 12. That's the 1250 bag leading from SF6 to nitrogen. So the N2 is nitrogen. So if you look at it close, you'll see an arrow. So it's kind of going from the flat film.
So did your wife look at this and be like, "Oh my God, you're such a nerd"?
No, you feel the quality of that coat. I mean, that's a nice coat.
Oh wow, this is a really nice coat, actually. It's super heavy.
And so I think I was telling Tony.
Look at that. Embroidered turquoise. It's amazing. You think about how the scope of where you came into Nike and the growth and what you saw, and then things like this, which no one really will ever know about, how they're pieces of history forever. To be able to do that and celebrate and say thank you to the team that worked on this major project.
I think it's done still today on a grand scale. I mean, for us, it felt good to get a coat. The guys that were, really getting their hands dirty and stuff.
And you ride motorcycles, so did you ride motorcycles with it?
Yeah. It fits well with a hoodie too. So
there you go.
So the New England thing, and so it was kind of good. And I think I was explaining to Tony, one or two people got upset they didn't get a coat, and that created a whole big backlash. But in the Nike world, it was really small potatoes. It was just a simple recognition. And some people gave, and I said, I ain't giving my coat back. I just screw it. I'm keeping my coat. So,
I wanted to try to segue a little more into manufacturing innovation. So you developed the Easy Plate machine.
Easy Inflate.
Easy Inflate machine, after seeing operators manually inflate and weld airbags, leading to repetitive stress injuries.
Yeah. So carpal tunnel.
Okay, carpal tunnel. What did you see on the factory floor, and how did you engineer a solution? So how does this whole thing develop where you then make a technology?
So this was probably my first intro into getting a project thrown at us. So I'm stepping way back. So 86, 87, again, predominantly aerosol at that point is all flat film. You know, 2 sheets welded, okay? And they would have 2 people on a simple 1 kW welder, and I would take an airbag, I would take a standard air gun with a needle, stick it, inflate it with a regulator, then hand it to you, and you would take a homemade pair of vice grips, pinch it off, and they'd weld it. So a good 2-person team could do maybe 2,000 pair a day. So imagine we had like 80 of these machines. Okay.
80?
Oh yeah, easily 80 to 100.
And you had 160 people doing this.
Yes, and we called it stab and burn. Okay, because
Jesus.
so
Oh
you
my God.
you stab, and then you weld it, and RF welding is kind of.
And where are you? What, you're in Oregon, or
We're in Oregon. This is the building 60.
So how do you get a job being the guy that's pinching, or like would you just take ads out in the Oregon?
I guess people just apply for a job in manufacturing and they get stuck on a stab and burn machine, and that's what we called it, a stab and burn machine, because if you touched anything metal to the electrode, it's wattage. I mean, it shocks you.
I went to
you get burned. I mean, you rated your life on how many burns you got, and
in Vegas back in the 70s, there was this great club called Stab and Burn, but that's for another. I don't know if this is going to make it. This could be some good B-roll, but I'm just saying. So there's 160 people, repetitive process.
Yeah, so you have this motion. Okay. So if you took an air gun and pierced an airbag, then I handed it to you. So you're doing 2,000 a day. So some people some in all honesty were legit carpal tunnel, where people were going out having surgery done. And then so I had a boss named Millard Freeman, and he just came into the engineering, he goes, "You guys got to come up with something that we get rid of a person and it's done easier." And then we invented what was called the Easy Inflate. And the Easy Inflate basically took an airbag, and again, through trial and error, we came up with a paddle system and a needle that you would put the airbag in, step on a pedal, a needle would...
So you literally started creating manufacturing.
Oh, totally. That was my first true manufacturing machine, was the Easy Inflate.
And you also ended up bringing production operations to New York to evaluate equipment before it was shipped because of this?
Yeah, so again, you fast forward, now we solved we got X amount of these Easy Inflates made. We're literally, if you could envision this, we're literally rolling these out by the day, because we had a bunch of like machining parts. So my friend Les Cooper and myself, like, we would actually take a welder, drill some holes in it, start machining. We were going to night school. I was going to CAD night school, so was Les. And then we were doing the pneumatic systems, and we were changing. We'd do everything on one big blueprint, right? And then we started machining these things. So we would maybe fabricate, we could do 2 a day or so, and literally roll them out onto the floor and take another one off. And this went on for maybe a year or so to get all these done and to get out of that. And it was, so again, those are the challenges. So then you move forward a couple of years, and now we're into blow molding. My second machine, I got to take these.
So do you have your name on the patents of these machines?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm on the patents on most of these.
Yeah.
And...
do you have it in your garage? Because, I mean, that'd be a cool thing. Like, if I'm trying to, at a cocktail party, I could just bring it this summer to 4th of July or whatever, and be like, yeah.
It was interesting, because in the Nike world, with the patents, we're always sensitive, because once you do a patent, people know how you do it. So certain things, if it was a utility patent or whatever, sometimes you'd sit with legal and go, well, maybe we're not going to broadcast this one, And
so you think that that's common practice today, because they know that if they patent it, then it becomes public knowledge?
Yeah.
So they're doing things that they're manufacturing tons of product, but they're not willing to go get the patent, because then it becomes public knowledge.
I think Nike Legal now has gotten so strong, especially in the patent department, that they're covering like if you change the plastic on an eyelid for a shoelace, that's covered in the first patent,
Right.
They're pretty sharp on that. So now you fast forward, we got to do this blow mold thing. We're making a couple 100,000. We had, again, these 1 kW welders with little 4-station index. Well, now volume's increasing 3-4-fold, right? We got to make a bigger machine. So we're like, all right, well, let's just scale this thing up. And we're now dealing with a company called K-Bar in Long Island. And we kind of designed the machines with their engineers, how we want to rotate, how we want to load. But then that was the first time we brought workers with us to Long Island, for like a week or 2 weeks, to have them run the equipment and then give feedback to us from the engineering department and the factory going, no, that's not going to work, and this is why. Because in the engineering world, you're always doing onesie, twosie, threesies, not 100,000. So like, when you're only doing a couple, it's easy. But so, and that, again, I felt good about that because it was the first time, again, where we involved other people. Like your job was equally as important as my job, even though we had 2 different jobs, You were the operator, and I always looked at, people on the floor as my extension of engineering. They're going to tell you what works and doesn't work really quick.
Right.
Or they don't want to run your equipment.
Right.
It's like, I'm not going to run that. That freaking thing hurts.
So what did those operators teach you that engineers and management would have otherwise missed? Because I'm sure there's, when you're on the floor and you're experiencing it, it's very different.
I think the coolest thing was again, we picked the operators based on their knowledge, that they were good operators and that they would give constructive feedback. And sometimes certain engineers don't like feedback, certain engineers do, and for me, it's kind of like, I always felt since I kind of came up through those ranks that I'm going to listen, I mean, even from where they had to sit or stand or load to unload, if they had an idea, and then you just kind of sit back and watch, and you go, wow, that's a great idea. I used to sit out on the floor when we did machines, and I would sit on like a box of flattened cartons, and I'd watch like a machine we did, and I'd watch what was going on. I'd sit there for like an hour, just watch people, and and then you see like, well, why are they stopping every so? And you just go up and talk to them, and this is why, because this thing dies, or we got the wrong. Could be something as the wrong device on there, or the wrong cylinder, but you would never. Some people don't want to say anything. Some people will say something, and you want the people to say, like, how do we improve this thing?
Right. Yeah, there has to be a feedback mechanism, so you're getting the feedback. So we talked a lot now we're in our third Partners and Plugs, part of the series. About trust, and you talked about, through your career, you've talked about Nike had built a culture of trust, relationships, and handshake agreements. What made that environment work, and what has changed since the time you were there creating these shoes? How did that evolve? Did it get too big, or do you think it still permeates?
I use the term, I think my early days, Nike was a family, and when I retired, I think it was a corporation. I think when it had like a family where you could do things, and, you just mingled with people, you just, I don't know how, people would always use, they're trying to tap into Nike culture, and I used to say, you either get Nike culture or you don't. It's not something that you can put on a piece of paper. I live by the thing of work hard, play hard, have fun, be respectful, and that little bit got me a long way. I mean, there's some times where, things weren't all holy and great, but on a whole, it worked, and especially in the Asian culture where trust is a big thing, and it's got to be mutual, and once you gain that trust, and
so let's go a little deeper on that, because when you talked about going to Asia and Vietnam specifically, you spent a lot of time there. You developed a lot of street cred. I remember last time you were talking about stories of meeting the owners of the factories and you still being friends with the children. So you're working with operators, families, the leadership who are running these.
I drank my share of Boilermakers. I'll tell you that.
In Vietnam. So
Yeah.
what does it take to actually earn the trust of a culture like the people running their facilities in Vietnam and other countries? Because, look, you're coming from the United States, your brand has exploded. Then all these other shoe companies are also trying to find manufacturing time, and they send you over, and they might already know that you're going back and forth with duffel bags full of airbags. So how do you do research? Do you it's just this is who I am, this is what we're doing, and try to be how do you do it?
In the early days, you only went to Korea and Taiwan. And even that was rough. I mean,
when you say rough, like give me some idea of what
okay,
are you
idea.
like sleeping in a bus terminal?
Okay, close to it. We're staying in Taiwan, a place called the Palmer House. Okay, my first night there, I check in. Okay, and I have no expectation of what's happening, and I tell this story a lot. I sit down. You just travel 23 hours. Okay, I sit down. There's like a bowl of fruit with fruit flies all around, and then there's toenail clippings.
On the floor?
No, on the table.
On the table. So someone's clipped their toenails and left them on the.
Yeah, and that's not. And so you're sitting there going.
It's weird. It sounds like a friend of mine says.
So then
single.
I said to myself, I go, well, maybe I'll sleep in my clothes in the bed tonight, And then somebody knocks on your door at like 12 o'clock or whatever, and it's this, old hooker lady or something. And I mean, this is what you were put up with, and then you hopefully met somebody, because again, it was before cell phones, that you're saying you're meeting at this train station. Or so-and-so to go down south to Dolio or whatever. And you're hoping that some guy picks out a big guilo like me going, this got to be Stu,
To then get
on the train and go. And so those things, and even like in my early times in Vietnam, I think Nike only had a couple company cars, so we would take a Cicolo.
Wait, what's that?
That's where a guy pedals and you sitting back. We would take that to the office. So these guys, if they made $2 to get you a couple miles, or it cost you $1, you gave them another $1 as a tip. You're like golden. So like they'll literally sleep outside in the early days outside your hotel, because we they broke in English going, all right, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, can you get us to the office? And that guy would literally sleep out there that night, and he'd make another $2, and.
Wow. So
and that was he made $1 and you gave him $1 tip. So that $1 tip was more than anything.
Yeah. So then you're establishing these relationships with new factories and factory owners in Vietnam. What's it like walking into a factory that you're trying to build a relationship with, having the brand name Nike behind you? Is it a good thing, a bad thing? Did you have to just build the relationship right away? Like, how do you do that?
So just to step back a little, a lot of the factories that are in Taiwan or in Vietnam or in China are the mother factories are in Korea or Taiwan.
Okay.
Like the big, Pao Chen is a big Taiwan factory. Feng Tai, who I was pretty close with, big Taiwan factory. Feng Tai does only Nike product in all their factories. They might do a little Salomon, but they don't do any other competitor. And then you got like the YY factories, or all the Pao Chen factories who does everything. And then you got the Korean factories. Certain ones just did tennis, certain ones did running, So those are an arm of the mothership out of Korea or mothership out of Taiwan in these factories. But you're meeting the new bosses, the new GMs and stuff, because you're a Nike guy and they're going to treat a Nike guy pretty good, but they're also going to treat you like, you got to be an okay guy.
Okay.
You're going to get treated okay just because you're a Nike guy. You'll get treated a little bit better if you're just an okay guy and a Nike guy, if that makes sense. And I'll say this, I'm only one of many players doing this. This is like,
right.
There are other players that are
I
maybe not down the same road I went.
This question is going to go deep into kind of like, what it was like for you, because you were a technologist, but you had impact in so many ways. Even though you're a technologist, you had a part in kind of all these offshoots of Nike history. And you talk about meeting Phil Knight and the technologies for this, and you saw Bo and Air Jordan, and people will be like, whoa. I'm a technology geek. Obviously Stu is, and he's an engineer. But one of the things I think that, I keep coming back to is this guy down the Cape, who was one of the first Nike engineers, literally, met Phil Knight, saw Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan. Like, even though he was focused on the technology and an engineer, he literally was peripherally involved and saw the explosion of all these different sub-brands and shoes that came out, and had his technology touch not only different footwear, but millions and millions and millions of consumers. So there's a really great picture here with Phil Knight. So I'll show that to you, and then maybe Stu can tell the story. So I'm not gonna say if you don't know who Phil Knight is, because if you don't know who Phil Knight is, you should stop watching this video. So Stu, this is the Run Across America.
No, this one's not.
That one's not. Okay.
This is Hood to Coast. So there's a
Hood to the Coast.
Yeah.
Mount Hood to the Coast. Yep.
Mount Hood to the Coast. It's a 200-mile footwear race. Okay, and it started with I think a dozen teams, and now it's a pretty big project. It's kind of a who's who of relay races, right? And it's a 12-person team, and you run basically, 200 miles. You have two vans, and you sleep where you sleep and whatever.
So you've got that. Then you've got you're touching everything.
So we put together a team, I think in the early 90s. We're Nike Air guys. We call ourselves the Derriers, right? Playing on words. We're a bunch of assholes, right?
Yep.
And we start doing this, right? And again, I think some of this is we create the Derriers, and it's a fun event. There's beer involved, but you run hard, play hard, and do it. And my team, the Derriers, because I captained the team for almost 15 years, was we got predominantly fast. People wanted to run with the Derriers. So this led into...
I have a history of running with Derriers.
So this kind of led to maybe guys just like running on Stu's team. We always came up we had our own, we made Derriere beer, we had Derriere mixtapes, we had a 3-mile hailer mounted on.
So you were using PEDs is what you're saying?
I don't know, what's PED?
Performance enhancing drugs.
No.
Just beer.
No. So we had, so the Derriers was kind of funny. It started out, we would take different terms you must have heard about us by now. We're outstanding in our field, but we started getting people that wanted to run with the Derriers. Fast people.
Right. Wow.
So it got to be the thing, 11 turbos and a big V8. Well, what the big V8 is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, me. So, and so we went from being a 24-hour team to being a 20-hour team, 19-hour team, coming in top 5 in corporate. And it's we had people that Nike Elite wanted on their team, on the Derriers. So kind of segue into the whole trust thing and just being outspoken and stuff. I was explaining this, I think, to Tony earlier. The year before, Adidas put together a team in our backyard and dusted Hood to Coast. They won it. They won it in 15, 16 hours, right? And Phil Knight kind of went, I think he went to Salazar, and he said, we're not going to let Adidas come in our backyard and do something that we're a running company, right?
And Salazar is a famous runner.
Yeah. So
he won the New York Marathon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Salazar ends up putting together an elite team, right? Of world-class athletes for the elite thing. And and this is a whole nother story. Nancy and I hosted one of them. He was the gold medalist in Atlanta, from Burundi, and coolest guy ever. His name was Venusti. And
this is when they had they found the backpack.
No. Yeah. So now the next year comes along. Nike's got this big team together. They're gonna do, and they did. They smoked it. And so we're out at the beach, and We would always end ours with beer and Kentucky Fried Chicken. And runners are so funny because like they won't touch Kentucky Fried Chicken till you smell it after 20 hours. You want a piece of chicken. I don't care what it is. You could be, the most elite runner, but you want to eat a piece of chicken.
Yeah.
So Phil's walking around and somebody goes to me, get Phil on our photo. See if he gets on our photo. So I had a couple beers and I go, Phil, you want to get in our photo? Yeah. So he gets on our photo. But everybody was afraid to ask him. He didn't get anybody else's photos, to my knowledge, that day. That's that photo.
Yeah. So again, like, this is Phil Knight with the runners. Amazing. So
and he doesn't know any of us, really.
Right. How many employees are at the company now? You think?
I don't.
10,000?
No, I think it's more than that. I think
more.
I think it's 20, 25,000.
Crazy.
I don't know.
That's crazy.
I used to know those numbers. I don't know them anymore.
So you meet Phil Knight, you're doing this race, but you literally, your technology was in, like, do you ever like sit and think, in this shoe, in this backpack, in all these things, you had your technology either had a direct impact because you were working on it, or they used your technology that was patented and it has spanned the globe. I mean, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, I do think about those things every now and then that, you might have did something on the airbag side that made production or made the airbag better. But, again, it's not your shoe. So you get, you're that, on the credits, you're that gaffer at the end, that,
right.
That means nothing.
Right, but if someone wasn't holding the mic, we'd be going like this.
But there are individuals that might know you to go, yes, Stu had an impact, on stuff. And it was interesting, kind of getting back to what you're saying, in the early days, you knew, like I said, the vice presidents. Like my overall boss was Dave Taylor. He was the head of manufacturing. You could talk to him like words did.
The head of all manufacturing.
Yes, back then.
Which is a huge job.
Yeah.
Okay,
so he had all Asia. He had everything. But you could talk to him. I'd golf with him and stuff like that. And then there was a guy named Ron Nelly, who again, was a solid guy. Phil's right-hand man was a guy named Del Hayes. Del Hayes didn't like the pompous side of campus. His office was in the Airsoul building. So when Del Hayes would come back and ask what you guys drinking today or what you guys working on, you kind of showed him. He was a cool guy. He was a cool dude.
And his name's Del?
Del Hayes, Delbert Hayes.
Delbert Hayes.
He passed away, I was still working, so it was like maybe 2016, 2017.
Okay, so...
Nice guy.
So...
He was definitely one of Phil's trusted,
right.
Like if Del told Phil something, again, I wasn't playing in that sandbox at all. I mean, this is like, I'm a little swished down here, know, and.
But when one of the great things about coming down and visiting is you've had the chance to reminisce and look back at, the span of your career.
Yeah.
And like, to Tony and I, and I'm sure the film crew that's filming this, like, it's so interesting because it's a historical reference point and we all kind of look at Nike, the swoosh, the brand. It's permeated the world's culture for footwear and clothing. Like, it's, you can't go anywhere without seeing people with the shoes or the clothing. But when you look back at your time over the 20 years in Beaverton, what accomplishments do you think best represent who you were as a leader at that stage, as your career is kind of, at its apex and you're really entrenched? Like, you look at accomplishments and say, this is something I'm really proud of.
I'm kind of proud of, I guess, everything in my career. I'm proud of the fact that I kind of never really changed my way of things. Like I was never a big suck up or anything like that. So I was, like I said earlier, I was polite. I might not agree with it.
Was there a lot of political, like at that point, did it get very political?
It was getting very political.
Okay, so give me an example of like, you're like, this person's just navigating and knows how to do things, and that's not
there
me.
There are people like in any corporation that just know how to navigate things way better than I I knew how to navigate. My recipe seemed to work for me, so I stayed with it. But I saw some things that just made that you didn't agree with, you know.
And this was on the manufacturing side or all over the place?
This is all over the place, you know, and you know, and again, I think it was because the times are changing, you know, and
so what years around this where you start to see that
I would say
happen?
you're starting to see it in the 2000 teens, you know, you started seeing stuff. So again,
is that because of the, like I'm just hypothesizing, but is that because of the influence of music and different things on Nike and how they realized they, you know, had to reach audiences through music videos or different things? Because you think about it, I can remember when Run DMC, who was wearing Adidas, like that was in the 2000s, and then all of a sudden a whole culture is buying Adidas shell toes because they started to think about how to reach an audience with not traditional marketing. So when you bring in people that are trying to reach subgroups or subcultures, it's a very different approach, and then that changes the culture right away because you're bringing people that aren't traditionally shoe people.
Yeah, I don't know. I always felt that Nike had their marketing and advertising pretty dialed in, you know, so I always thought those people know what they're doing. Here's a great example. I get relocated back into Beaverton, Oregon, okay, kind of kicking and screaming because I wanted to kind of go off into the sunset finishing a project I was on in Vietnam. But, you know, I was a good soldier, and I'm sitting there, you know, I don't know anybody in Beaverton now at Air Soul. You know, I've been away for 10 years. I come back twice a year for meetings, and, you know, you got a new rank and file. From the engineering base, I knew a lot, but the rank and file, I knew, you know, not, either people got promoted or moved on to other jobs, and I had questioned something in a meeting, you know, and I got kind of like looked at like, why are you questioning me? And I was like, I didn't say anything, and somebody later on said, you know, that person asked somebody else, and they said, well, Stu was questioning it because that's his patent, you know.
Oh wow.
you know, so like they were saying it couldn't do something. I go, well, no, I know it could do something because I invented it, you know. So and I thought that was odd. And then one time, I again, when I was back in 2016, I made a comment, very harmless. I made a lot of comments and dropped a lot of F-bombs in my career. And this one was, I said something like, well, not everybody should get a trophy. A very harmless comment. And I got called to the carpet for it. And I was like, this is the change that I wasn't, you know, used to. I was used to going, you know, oh, Jonathan, F you. You know, that is the stupidest effing idea I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. And you dealt with that, and then went and had a beer later.
Right.
You know, where, you know, you couldn't do that anymore. I don't think you do that anymore now.
Oh, no, you get sued.
You know,
no, I know.
So it was things like that, which was the time that, you know, even, you know, my wife and I, Nancy, were talking like, yeah, you know, we're good. We get out of Dodge here, you know, before I throw away 35 good years saying something stupid.
Over the last 3 episodes, we talked about the work, the technology, the people, and decisions that shaped your career at Nike. Along the way, you also became a caretaker of some pretty insane pieces of Nike history. I mean, these are just a few, but you know, I know it's downstairs. And in our final chapter, we'll talk about Stu's years leading air operations across Asia, his return to Beaverton, and the collection of artifacts, prototypes, and memorabilia, and one-of-a-kind pieces that you've preserved for more than 3 decades with the company. And, you know, I know Nancy wants her basement back. I know I've been dreaming about this stuff. But seriously, for the first time, many of these pieces, we're hoping we can develop a way to respectfully celebrate your career in a way where we can show these things to a larger audience and to collectors. Because, you know, you think about today with Sotheby's and Jupiter and Goulden and all these, you know, fanatics where they try to talk about historical reference points in brands and sports. Like, what you have here is the Pandora's box in the basement. There's not everything, but there's a million things that no one's seen. So next time we come back to your house, which we haven't scheduled yet, we're going to develop that last partners and plugs, because our dream all along has been able to tell the story and then bring some of these things that you've collected to a place where people can not only see them, but perhaps even buy some for their collection.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, as a man that collects stuff, I totally get why everything's sitting in your basement. You're like, oh yeah, I should. But there are times where you're doing stuff in the yard and you go downstairs and you grab a beer and you start rummaging through and you find a piece of history and it brings you back to a date in time, and it's a great feeling because you remember everything that went into it. And you know, when we shoot these partners and plugs, what people see is such a small segment of our discussions, because the best part of being the interviewee or the interviewer is to hear what you have to say, because you can see when you're thinking about your journey, like, you know, and that's the best part. So first of all, we're really grateful that, you know, we've gotten to episode 3. But for me, it's so exciting to then be able to show pieces of history, and maybe someday, you know, in the fall or, you know, before winter hits in Boston, bring some things so we can tell that and people can say, these are the things that he's willing to part with. This is Nike history, because no one's ever going to see it.
It will be a one and done. Like you know, I mean, there are things that other people have, but this stuff I don't think shows up like even on eBay and stuff. And and I know, like I said, I know I've got some stuff that is so unique. You know, and I'm just one guy that has unique stuff. There's other guys, but it is interesting. We were having dinner last night with an ex-Nike guy, another 30-plus year guy, was the president of Kohan and stuff like that. And we were talking about, because he's seen some of the, because my one friend forwards out these things. Like, he doesn't tell me, he just says, and he goes like, Stu, you should be doing this. And he goes, yeah, I threw away all my boxes of stuff, you know, like years and years ago.
All right, so if anyone's watching this, like this is what I'm going to say.
I know 3 friends that have thrown away stuff.
So if you threw it away, you should never have done that.
Yeah.
But if you're watching this and you knew Stu peripherally or knew him, and you see what I'm saying right now, we're going to provide information, or Stu can tell you how, once we put the foundation of how we're going to try to bring these things to a space somewhere in Boston to see them potentially buy them, monetize your collection. Because I can tell you, when you get your basement back or your extra bedroom back or your garage back, that ability to declutter and also be able to then take your trip back to Vietnam to stay in a 5-star rather than toenails and, you know, fruit flies is going to be well worth it. So thank you so much for having us down here a third time.
Yeah, like you said it perfectly. In the last 2 days, I was kind of going through, you know, again, I'm dating myself, guys, Polaroids. I mean, 35 millimeters. I got the negative.
I think there are people that literally will be watching this, because we have a very broad audience that don't even have one photograph in their house that they took. It's all on their phone. And if they printed it from a printer, and it doesn't have this quality. So like this is how we grew up. I mean, as kids, you'd go to the photo mat and then you'd have your trip on 24 or 36 pictures. You know, it's just, and he's got boxes and boxes. Like, this is in China. If you look at this one here, look, just do it, I can. I mean, look at this.
I just going through it, and things like, I would take pictures of people eating things, you know, like.
I mean, this is all the history. Like, we'll go through these things to be able to show some of this stuff. Like, yeah, Forbidden Palace, I've been to China. So I see
just Korea, you know, the food. Because
mean, imagine, like, I don't know if this lands for most people, but taking manufacturing to Vietnam and then trying to figure out where you have to go, and the place they put you in where you're sleeping, there's rotting fruit with fruit flies and someone else's toenails on a table, and you're working for a company that's on a trajectory to the moon. It's crazy.
Things like this, you know.
Oh my. Yeah, I don't know if I could. Oh my God. I definitely can't show that. They're hot pigs' heads like laying on the ground. From
So you're talking about like relationships and friendships. So this is a friend of mine, Shane Hanneman. Okay. So you fast forward, him and his wife will be here later this summer with another ex-Nike guy. You know.
Did Shane throw his stuff out?
I don't know what Shane.
All right, we're gonna call.
I have like 3.
So we're sending him back there because I'm imagining, you know, once we're done with Partners in Plugs 4, we do this event.
So I had to, sorry.
We end up getting him, you know, he ends up being able to buy like a 911 in lime green or something. So these are all. Oh my God, you're in there.
Yeah. So that's actually. So I found some photos which were again brought me down memory lane, like. This shoe.
This is classic. Wait, I gotta show this one.
This pair of shoes here I'm holding is actually the first SX6 free basketball shoe.
The first one.
First one.
Ever.
Production.
First production one ever in China.
Yeah, and this was the majority. And again, you can see how we didn't wear ties, and that's us. That was my boss at the time. He left Nike. Shane.
Tell me a little bit about this shoe.
I'm pretty sure, and I might be wrong, I think they call it the Max 270. This is how the airbag would have looked. Single inflate back then.
So for those of you who are watching this and actually care about engineering, this would be the one pager then showing the schematic.
So this is like Air Max 95,
yeah.
And that's like the Barkley shoe. And
Charles Barkley.
Yeah. So he was.
Did you ever eat Kentucky Fried Chicken with him?
No, but I did have a beer with him.
With Charles Barkley?
Yeah.
When he was on the 76ers?
I had a beer with him when they were doing the launch of the Godzilla thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were happened to be.
So Charles Barkley, if you ever follow Super Glorious, maybe you remember Stu.
I would love that. I would love to meet him again. I just, we had a beer. There was 2 jackets made of that poster.
Yep.
And there's one guy, Nelson Ferris. He had a jacket, and they gave Charles one, and I had Nelson's on, and I lent it to somebody in this kind of closed party. And I remember Nelson Ferris, and I don't know if you guys know.
Got it back.
I don't know if you guys know. Nelson Ferris is like probably Nike's #1 storyteller. He just retired after like 40.
Nelson Ferris.
Yeah.
F-A-R-R-I-S?
F-E-R-R-I-S. Nelson.
F-E-R-R-I-S.
Again, he's probably Nike's #1 storyteller, of all time. In this photo, this is Run Across America.
So this is your derriere group?
No. This is. I lied to get on this. So Run Across America, for people that don't know, was after 9/11. Phil Knight, and if you watch that video, it will bring a tear to your eye how it starts it out in the soccer field. They say, well, we're going to do what we do. We're going to run. So they again, in the Nike way, they wing this thing from Astoria, Oregon to New York City. So starting in October. Yeah, started in October after September 11th, so not even a month, not a whole lot of planning. Okay, we're gonna run, and we're gonna run from a firehouse to firehouse and raise money, and so they sent out a thing.
For people that were affected by the
for the fallen heroes. There's a whole thing. So, and I think they raised like almost $3 or $4 million.
So it's called Run Across America.
Run Across America
in 2001.
2001 October.
Right after September 11th.
Yeah. So they sent out a thing going, if you're like an 8-minute miler, and you got to run 8 miles a day. So I go, I could run 8 minutes for 4 miles. I don't know if I could run 8 minutes for 8 miles and keep that pace, but I just figured I lied. So I signed up, right? And and you had to run with a woman. And it was kind of, and you're carrying stuff. You're carrying signed stuff for auctions for these. This is small town USA. We ran across like small roads. So I ended up in Nebraska City, Nebraska as my first. I run from Nebraska City, Nebraska to Indianapolis, Indiana. Yeah. So I ran every day.
How many days?
It was like 7 or 8. At one point they couldn't fly me home because there was no airports. So I kept calling my boss going, I'm off for another day. And then he go, well, Stu is also good at logistics and driving one. We had 4 vans. We had a pig van called Elwood, which Nike got rid of. I'm surprised they did. That ended up, everybody signed it. Like if we pulled into Brewster, you guys would sign the van and something got it. It stunk. And then we had 3 clean ones. And so if you're a geek at Nike, across from the Nike campus, there's a trail called the Hollister Trail. His wife, Wendy, is a peach. I met Wendy through Hood to Coast, and then Jeff and I became friends.
Okay. And this is a book he wrote.
This is a book he wrote.
The inside story of how Nike marketed what? Marketed the culture of running. Okay.
Yeah. So then he wrote to Stewie, an old Nike foot soldier, enjoy the history and the read. Jeff.
I mean, I don't know how many people even know this existed. So, like, this is...
I would say if you're a runner and stuff and you want to know a little bit more about Nike history, read that book.
Okay, so to wrap this up, the 4th interview, which we're going to start working on very soon, I think is going to be the most informative, because we're going to really try to look at everything we shot and then think about, this idea of how to... take the pieces that Nancy is imploring you to get rid of and that you're willing to get rid of, and then really bring it to light in the right way. Because when you're sitting here and you're feeling your energy talking about this stuff, I leave here and I'm super excited because it's so cool. But we want to make sure we translate that, so when we build the marketing, build the social media, create the reels, create the imagery, we tell the story in a way so people understand all the work we put into telling your story, but also why these things that you're willing to try to part with have a lot of value to people that just haven't gotten under the hood about Nike and construction and engineering and kind of how the technology today has evolved and why everything is built upon. I mean, you have how many patents?
I don't know. I looked that up the other day. I think it's well over a dozen.
Well over a dozen patents. So, all right, I get it.
I probably should have a few more, and I don't.
All right, I just wanted to thank you again. We're going to be back. I think Nancy brought some muffins. I might have to break into the box.
I just always wanted to touch on the non-part of the engineering, because, again, I think a lot has to do. I think, Tony, you resonated a little bit with me. It's like, I don't know, maybe I was a little bit outgoing in some areas and shy in others, and that opened a few doors and maybe shut a few doors. But and Nancy knows me. I'm a competitor, so I that's in my DNA. So like when somebody says you can't do something, of course you're gonna say you can do it.
Right.
Even if you can't.
Right.
So I was blessed that way, and like I said, it's sad because young engineers today will not get exposed to, say, people at the level I was. Like you would go in an Asian, a Vietnam dinner with a factory, and you might have the GM there, and then the young engineers would sit down, and I'm like, go sit next to Jonathan. He ain't gonna bite you. Go do a shot with him, and do a Boilermaker with him. Don't be so afraid of these guys. And I was blessed because I think I had 1 or 2 good mentors in my early days that say, hey, this is a field you don't want to be in, and this is the field you should play in. Sure. And it made sense to me. Sure. So I never wanted to be that jerk Nike guy.
Amazing.
So, I think there's some muffins there.
Wait, yeah, let's get some food. I'm starving.
Yeah, so am I.
All right, thank you.